Welcome to the Growth Shift. I'm David Zylstra. Here's what I've learned after years in business. Every leader who's built something meaningful has a story, but the moment they had to shift, when failure forced innovation, when change became opportunity, when they chose growth over comfort. On this show, we dive into those pivotal moments, the setbacks that became breakthroughs, the strategic shifts that accelerated growth, and the frameworks that turn obstacles into opportunities. Because here's the truth. In a world where change is the only constant, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who've learned to shift strategically through it. So whether you're facing your own pivot point or just want to learn from someone who's been there, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Today, joining us is Will Adair, Director of Adair Agency, an insurance professional who brings a unique background of ministry and IT to his business approach. Will has built an agency known for its remarkably low cancellation rates and his client-focused solutions. With over 4 years in the insurance industry, he's developed a distinctive approach that emphasizes solving problems rather than just making sales. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thank you for having me. It's such a privilege.
Glad to have you here. Will, tell me about your transition from ministry to insurance. How did your father's experience with life insurance influence this decision?
So, about 4 years ago, I got a phone call. It was pretty early in the morning, and if you knew my mom and dad, you would know they never call early unless something's up. What I was afraid was happening, my dad was back in the hospital. A few days prior, he had been released after a routine surgery, went home to recuperate, and that night he started having trouble breathing. He didn't know it, but he had actually had a collapsed lung, and his body was starting to go into sepsis. So they rushed him to the hospital. My mother called me at like 6 in the morning. We got in the car and drove as fast as we could, about 4+ hours away, to see what was going on. His body wasn't very healthy. The routine surgery had complications that no one could foresee happening, and a few days later, he was declared dead, and we were, honestly just dealing with the shock of someone dying when you're not expecting it. Fast forward a few weeks later, my mom calls me. We've done the service. I did my father's funeral, and she says, your dad wanted you to be the executor of his estate, which I didn't know that, so I will tell your listeners, discuss those things with your family, because it makes things a whole lot easier in the midst of the reality of losing someone you love. So what ended up happening was I found out Dad had actually been paying on an insurance policy for like 38 years, which if you don't know, that's a very long time. That means it's some type of a permanent policy, and he had a type of universal life that was extremely popular in the 70s and 80s, and he had just paid in on it for a very, very long time. So I thought this should be something that would pay out pretty quickly. When you pay in on something for 38 years, you would expect for it to pay out in a timely manner. What ended up happening, though, was the insurance carrier was trying to see if they could get out of paying it. I won't mention who the carrier is, but we were not very happy about that. 11 months goes by. We threatened a lawsuit. Thankfully, we didn't have to go with that. The insurance company ended up saying, yep, we're going to pay out. They apologized for the long delay. But in that period, it got me looking into this industry, because it's not something I had ever planned to go into. Candidly, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Spider-Man. That job was taken. So as I became an adult, I am very much a person of the Christian faith, believe Jesus is God incarnate, and I wanted to share that with people when I became a believer. So I became a pastor. Went to seminary, did that. I was in ministry for 20 years. Like a lot of people, COVID made it really, really, really difficult to do in-person business. So people business is what ministry is, and I wasn't able to do that during COVID. Churches were shut down. The state I was living in did not allow for local gatherings. So like a lot of people, I was trying to figure out what was going to be the next step because we had bills due just like everyone else. I actually became a day trader for like a year, was decent at that, but it was turning me into a really not nice guy. That's a very high stress job. You can get it wrong, but you can't get it wrong a lot or you're going to go broke very quickly. And I didn't want the stress of that. So as we're looking at trying to get my dad's policy paid out, I started thinking and been praying about maybe I could actually start an insurance company. So that's what I did. I looked into it, went, oh, hey, you just got to get an education, get a license. I mean, I've got a master's degree. I was like, this shouldn't be that hard. I'm not honestly sure which was harder, the master's degree or going through the insurance thing. My home state, we don't let you know actually by what grade you pass with. So I don't know if I passed by one or I aced it. All I know is I got a license from the state. And we started our business. So that's how I got into the industry. It was a roundabout way to get there, but our goal is to build an agency where it's client focused. And I think that's why we have a really low cancellation rate, because we would actually rather not write business in the first place if it's not an agreed upon right fit the first time. And that way,
great way to do business.
Yeah, that way the client feels like they should, that they're the priority and the focus. And then we qualify them like anyone does for any insurance. We have a lot of different carriers. We've been really blessed to have some really solid partnerships with some carriers.
Well, I'd love to jump in here. I want to chat a little bit more about how you started out, right? Everything else I think is really going to show and the listeners how it is your agency came together and why you're in such a strong position now. I mean, you said something that, when we were chatting the other day, we both recognized probably about 99 out of 100 insurance professionals don't dream about being in insurance. It's sort of a series of events that led us to finding ourselves in the industry. And for yourself, it was an unfortunate event, but at the same time, also recognizing the true value in how much a properly placed policy can provide to people in need in times of turmoil. Now, for yourself, of course, that led to starting an agency during COVID. Now, I'm kind of curious to learn a little bit more about how it is your experience in ministry and IT shaped your leadership style and really set the foundation for Adair Agency.
So it's a weird combination doing ministry and IT. They're in some ways different extremes of the human experience. Ministry is all about people. It's a relational business, or at least it's supposed to be. And IT is technology. And a lot of people think that those are divergent paths, but in reality, they're not. IT is designed to make things easier. So it's not supposed to get rid of the human connection. It's supposed to foster the human connection and make it simpler. Now, the reality is IT can be IT. It can have some interesting things that come with it. And I love technology. So when I was a kid, when I realized I couldn't be Spider-Man, that there were no radioactive spiders out there for me, I gravitated towards technology because I thought it was really cool. Built my first computer when I was like 11. For those of you that are IT people, I know I built a 386, and I think we had 2 megs of RAM on it, and maybe a 200 megabyte hard drive. It was like the bomb at that time period. I think my kid's smartphone has a lot more in it than that thing did. But I've always liked technology because it's designed to make our life easier and for us to foster learning, foster connectivity. So that's why I went into that industry. I thought it was an absolutely fascinating thing to do. After I got into the IT industry, I ended up going to seminary. I actually originally thought about doing something IT and communications related, and ended up feeling a call to do ministry. So went to seminary, got the degree, started at some small churches and got into some larger churches. And that's been my path there. But I look at the two things as really just kind of like opposite sides of a coin. One is the direct people focus in ministry, and then IT is the support to get people connected. And if you can combine those two things, you have the ability to really help somebody else. I think life is meant to be other focused. So I've took those two kind of divergent and try to harmonize them as much as possible. And we do that in our agency by really trying to reach our clients. We do most of our stuff through remote. So love Zoom, love the ability to hop on and see someone face to face or just over the phone. I tell my clients if they want to do it over the phone, that's terrific. That way I don't have to put on a suit coat. I know in ministry, you think you'd always want to wear a suit, but I really don't like wearing them anymore. I've worn them for 20 years. But the
Hmm.
fun about what we do is it's relation business. And the tech just makes
Hmm.
the relationship fostering a little faster because everything's fast now. Most people, myself included, we want what we want as quickly as possible, and that makes things interesting in the 21st century. We all have the attention span of gnats.
It sounds like there was really a great fusion there for you, a fusion of interest and perhaps hobby as an 11-year-old computer genius, and then of course the caring for people that you developed and honed through your time in ministry. And it seems like you had a great set of prerequisite skills for really delivering business in a way that it should be done, right? People first, client first. How can I help you, right? What solutions can I provide? Now, it sounds like you had some great skills. People skills, probably some of the most important starting a business. But I'm curious, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced starting out in an industry that you were brand new in?
Biggest challenges at first was, could I do this? When you start anything new, you don't know if you're going to be successful or you're going to fail. Most new businesses fail within the first 6 months. That's just the reality of entrepreneurial type roles. You have to be willing to fail to see if you can be successful or not. And like anybody else, I don't like failing. Failing is never a good feeling. I had to learn very quickly that failure, it's either something that stops you or something that fuels you so that you have the ability to learn from it and figure out this is what does work and this is what doesn't. And you got to have a lot of data points. So I metricize everything. I metricize how long I'm on the phone with clients, cadence. We go back and we'll listen to audio to see if there's something that I need to fix or tweak. And that was really my first couple of years, really learning how to relate in a way that was not natural to me. I like technology and I like doing things over this. I mean, it's remarkable that, I can be in Wilmington, North Carolina area and I can talk to someone in Ireland. That is absolutely remarkable to me, see face to face. But I like the human relationship. I like being in person. I like the physical there. But reality is, I'm not going to get in a plane and go to where all my clients are at. I serve clients all the way from the Carolinas to California. So I had to learn how to be relational and foster that connectivity to someone that came in as a lead, just someone that was interested in whatever the type of insurance, mortgage protection, life insurance, retirement. Honestly, that doesn't matter. What matters is what does the client need and can I help them solve their problem? If I can, we end up doing business. And if I can't, I try to point them to where they can go. But that was a very hard learning curve to do that because it's a different stream than, a standard insurance model. It's a brick and mortar. I do a lot of my business from home. I love having a home office. Thankfully, my kids are outside and have not screamed loudly yet. But that actually makes it really fun. I was one time doing an appointment with a client that was really gruff and mad, and one of my kids screamed in the background. And the client on the other end is like, "What's that?" I said, that's my family, and that's what broke the ice. They're like, "Oh, you got kids?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And I was like, "The bio I sent you had that info in." They're like, "Well, I didn't read that." I'm like, "Hey, no worries." "Well, how many kids you got?" And we found out we both had 4 kids. And then it was just a human connection.
It is a human on the other side of the line after
Yeah,
all, right?
yeah. I'm not some telemarketer sitting with 600 people around me in some call center. I'm a guy who is trying to reach you and help you solve your problem, and that's
Absolutely.
been the fun of this too because it's a challenge every time. We crack jokes when we have our first conversation with a client. I'm a goofball. I like humor. I think humor is one of God's good gifts to the world. And if I can get somebody to laugh, I feel like I've done something good. So even if we don't do business, I made you laugh and your day was a little better, mine was a little better. And we're just kind of making the world a little less because there's a lot of out there in our world today.
Sure is. There sure is. Now, Will, you take a relationship first approach. You like people, you like communicating, you like connecting with people, and you love leveraging technology to help you do so better. A lot of people have these things available, but they aren't necessarily able to connect the dots in some of the ways you are. For example, your premium or your policy and client cancellation rates are astoundingly low. Can you remind me what those numbers are when it actually comes to the cancellations, where industry averages are 10 to 15% at
Yeah,
least?
I pulled my numbers to make sure I was accurate. In the 4 years we're doing it, we're at about a 4% cancellation. So a little higher than the 3% I originally told you. We had a few at the beginning of this year because if you haven't noticed, the American economy is a little interesting right now. But our big goal is we don't pursue the price of a policy. We pursue solving somebody's problem. The greatest thing about that is if you solve someone's problem and you build a relationship with the client, even if you don't do any more business with that client, you've done the right business the first time. A lot of people in this industry, they have a feeling that they have to get as much out of somebody as possible, and that's how they're going to sustain their business and provide for their family, which everyone's got to provide for a family. We take a little different approach. We believe that if you do the right thing by people and you put people first, that it will always work out. Sometimes it's slower than other times. We've had months where we've had a lot of business, and then we've had some months where it's been slower. You can't control who comes in and chooses to work with you, but you can choose how you work with every person. So if we solve the problem right the first time, there's not a need to cancel it. We usually crack a joke and ask a question like, hey, David, now that we've kind of gone through this policy and it solves what you said you want it to do you agree with that? I wait for the client to say, yeah, this makes sense. Hey, if you were to blow a tire like I did a week ago, going through a construction zone that's been 2 years too long, would you be able to keep this policy? And it gets a laugh because we've all had that experience, right? I put 4 new tires on a car one time, drove through a construction zone like 2 weeks later, and then had to put 3 brand new tires on. That stunk. But we wanted to make sure that the client on the other end realizes our goal isn't to try to get as much as we can out of them. Our client is the focus, so we're trying to give as much as we can and let that insurance product that's the best fit for them do that. If we do that, we don't have a lot of cancellation rates. So that's how we teach our agents to do it. We do hire people all the time, part-time, full-time, get them plugged in and teach them how to do it. I honestly prefer people who've never done it before because then we don't have to unteach them bad habits. There's a lot of bad habits that you can develop in this industry. Thankfully, the person that mentored me was really, really good and told me how to be other client focused and gave me a lot of great little cheats that I teach all my agents. But the reality is just at the end of the day is, if you really believe that relationships matter and people come first, everything else really does kind of work itself out. And then it's just like with anything else, it's by volume. The more people you talk to, the more opportunities you have to solve problems, and you just keep on from there.
Absolutely. Now, in regards to the number of people that you talk to, right? How it is that you approach your clients and sales and actually providing solutions rather than just making sales. This is a long-term mindset. So of course, there's a lot of value in it for the future of your agency. But if we turn the clock back and look at the beginning, right? When you maybe didn't necessarily have the time to consider what is this going to be 5 years from now, how is it you approach the initial challenges of starting a business in a new industry and then having it evolve to exactly where you are now? What did you do first?
So I am a very big advocate of reading from people that have got to where you want to get. If you think you have all the solutions, you don't. None of us do. I'm not going to solve every person's problem that I talk to. And I go into it realizing that. But I do know that is any industry, it's a volume game of anything that you do. You've just got to have a lot of people to talk to. When I first started, read a couple of really solid books. John Maxwell's Talent is Never Enough. First one there, transformative, because you can be the greatest communicator ever. You're not going to be able to communicate your way out of everything. You have to figure out what are your weaknesses and shore those up so that you're able to build off of your deficiencies. That's a kind of a different way of looking at things. I'm extremely grateful for John for writing that book. The other is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Terrific book. Highly recommend it. One of the key principles in there is to begin with the end in mind. So when I started my business, I began with the end in mind that I am going to be successful in this because this business really isn't for me. It's kind of weird to say you call a place the Adair Agency. Who's it for? Well, I have 4 kids. Their last name happened to be Adair. And 2 of them are boys and 2 of them are girls. I know 2 of them will always have that last name. So, beginning with the end in mind, I'm working from day one. I want to build a lasting agency that I can pass to them. They may want to do this as a career, or perhaps they just want to get a residual income from it. I'm not imagining that the economy is going to be any better when they are my age. So the ability to create something that could give them an opportunity for passive income is a very big motivator. The other is I knew that if I talked to enough people, no matter how bad I was, I could at least break even. So if I break even, that means I've not lost anything and I've had an opportunity to learn from every single call. And I will tell you, I learned a lot more from the no's than the yeses. Sometimes it was to learn how to listen. As a guy who formerly stood in front of a lot of people and spoke monodirectional, there's not a lot of give and take when you're preaching. Now, there's a ton of give and take when you're pastoring. That's all one-on-one conversation. But I had to learn, and candidly, I'm still learning. I wish I was there now, how to have those bivocational conversations. And I went back and, just like you, if you watch sports, good sports guys will go back and they'll watch the game tape and see what they did wrong so they can fix it and do it right the next time. So I went back a ton and went through my notes and I looked to see where I did it wrong. So I use a script for all of my interactions to keep me on focus. I am ADHD. I have to rabbit trail. I had to learn how to look at a camera and not do the 50 other things that I want to do and to be very other person focused. So that's how I was able from the beginning to get to where I'm at now. And I knew that it was going to be rough. You start any new industry, it's rough. When I started ministry, I was terrible. Believe it or not, I did not like to speak to people, which is very difficult in ministry. I am an extrovert. If it's talking about something I'm comfortable with, I can talk to anyone about it. But if it's something that I haven't done previously, it takes me a little bit to get up and going there. I knew that I had to just do it a lot to learn how to do it. So now it's essentially the same conversation for everybody because everyone's got a problem. For some people, and I do believe for the majority of people, insurance can be a solution. It's generally never the only solution, but it is a good solution to add value to your family's estate. Paying off a mortgage or paying for the kids' future, giving them something for a step up when you're no longer there to help them out. And that was something I knew from the beginning too. I knew that I would have the ability to help families if I survived one more time. So I had a mentor who told me every time I got a no to write out the word no and put a equal sign with a dollar sign and circle that, because those were teaching opportunities I was paying to learn, and that would pay it forward to when I could help the next person that had the same problem that I wasn't able to solve the first time. So now when we have conversations, great mindset, because we humans hate being rejected. At least I do. I can't speak for everybody out there. I hate it when someone says no to me, but then I learned a very valuable lesson. The no isn't to me. The no is to the solution I provide. So if the solution doesn't fit, that's nothing I can control. Even if I truly believe that is the best thing for the client, and it may well be, if the client doesn't agree with it, that's their decision. So when someone tells me no, I literally say, thank you so much. If you were my client, David, I'd say, hey, David, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this opportunity of sharing this with you. Since this doesn't work, I just want to give you my number. I'm going to send it to you via text right now with my business card. You've got my info. If you feel like I can add value to you down the road, please reach out. And that's it. There's no strong arm sales tactics, because strong arm sales tactics may work if you're selling a car. It shouldn't even then, but it is not going to work long-term in this industry from my experience.
They also won't put you at a place where you have 4% cancellation rates, of course. Now, Will, you started an industry with no prior experience other than some prerequisite skills, right? You faced some challenges, but you started with the end in mind. What did you want? To build a legacy for your family. You faced the no's, you faced the rejections, you persevered throughout, you learned a lot, you had some great mentors along the way, and you truly built an incredible business with great clients, forward people, client-facing approach, providing solutions and thinking about them first. It sounds like a very strong foundation you've built. What's next for Adair Agency?
We're in the place right now, we're working to scale. The reality of any business is either you have to do all of the work yourself for your income, which is doable, or you can build a system where the system helps generate the income for you. That's the place where we're at. We are working to expand our ability to bring people into this industry and teach them hopefully the right way to do it. There's more than one method. We don't pretend to think that we're the experts in it, but I can teach someone what I did and what's worked for me. And then it's up to them to see if it works for them. So we're in the scaling phase right now. We're trying to expand our agency. We believe that anybody that can have a conversation can do this business, because it really comes down to that. You don't need to be a strong salesperson. I actually prefer hiring people that weren't salespeople before, because salespeople go into primarily sell. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're working at Lowe's, you probably need to sell a lot of lumber to be able to keep that business open. But if you're doing that in this industry, you may not be writing the best business for the client. And the reality of a lot of agents, they can come in and write a lot of business. I knew a guy on another team came in. He wrote 10,000 of business in his first 2 weeks. For those of you who are not familiar with this industry, that's a heck of a goal. He wrote 10K and it issued. That's really impressive. So I called this guy and I'm like, okay, is he got the secret sauce? And we're talking, and I found out dude's just a terrific salesman. I was like, hey man, you need to be careful with that, because insurance companies, if you choose to get paid up front and that client doesn't keep the policy, they very much like to have their money back, because they don't like to just give money away. Their business wouldn't be solvent if they did that. And this guy who sold, I think, like 10K his second month, like 20K his third month, in the beginning of his fourth month, he had a little over 10K in chargeback, and he had spent all the money. So he was done. And I felt bad for him. I felt bad for the person who hired him, because that person who hired him was on the line for that business. And, that's just the reality of learning to do it the right way. We try to teach our people how to solve a problem. And then it just becomes, it's a volume game. So you're going to have some weeks that are great, some weeks that aren't. You may have some months that aren't, and then you're going to have some that are. We try not to put all our eggs in any one basket. We diversify the type of products that we offer clients, because we never know what someone wants. I have had people come in for mortgage protection, and we end up selling them an annuity because they really didn't need mortgage protection. They had money. We just needed to figure out how to put it in the right product for them. And then we've had people come in for IULs and end up selling, a term policy, because that's what made sense for their finances at this stage in their life. If you don't go in with a mindset of one size fits all, then you're able to help more clients, because like most of us humans, we're in different sizes. You can't put someone in the same size t-shirt unless it's a triple extra large. And even that's probably not going to fit everyone. It's going to look a little weird. But if you tailor it to what the client needs, that's where you're able to win. And that's what we teach our people to do. So we're in the phase of trying to expand, and we're leveraging technology to do that. Tech is great. Tech allows to cut through noise, and there's so much noise that it allows us to be able to get onto someone's screen, which is the most common thing that most of us have today. I'm actually recording through a screen right now. iPhone, greatest little device to man for inexpensive cameras. I used to remember watching guys carry around large cameras on the shoulder to record everything, and now they just whip out their phone and start recording. That's technology. And that's the beauty of it.
It certainly is. Now, Will, you mentioned scaling and wanting to add 10 writing agents to your team, but we're also talking about technology as well. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on scaling with tech? Because, of course, it's going to be necessary to have more agents who are actually able to bind policies and build relationships. But how is it that you're planning on maybe amplifying the results of those agents with new tech such as AI?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence, it's in the baby stages right now. We're kind of in the arms race to see which companies and which countries are going to win at that. End of the day, as an American, kind of hoping America wins on that one. But whoever wins, I'm hoping that they continue to create systems that allow it to do what it's supposed to do, is to make things easier. So we actually use a bit of AI now. We use automation sequences that are trigger points. So if somebody says XYZ, the computer goes, oh, I know the answer to that one, and it answers for it. It'll send a message to the agent going, hey, you need to get over here and check this out. Because a lot of us, we doom scroll. There's probably a better way to say it, but we look at that one thing on Facebook, and 4 hours later, we're late to work by 2.5 hours because we've been scrolling through the reel. And we get a lot of people that they first interact with us because they saw one of our advertisements. We use a lot of different advertisements, and then they get into a system where we leverage a bit of AI to do some of the same questions that get asked all the time. What's really fun, though, is like what we do is we have it that if somebody replies back on the other end, our agents get a instant notification so they can be looking at it. And if they need to take over, they can hit the button and go into it. So I one time was texting a person in real time because it was in a off block. And the person's like, thanks, AI. And I'm like, my name is Will, and I sent a picture of me doing this. And they're like, oh, dude, you're a human. Like, yeah, I've got a time tomorrow for you at 5:15 or 7. What will work better for you? And the guy texts back, hey, 5:15 is great. Ended up writing an app. But that's where AI is going to do a greater part going forward. I think it's kind of in the baby stages right now. It's not always perfect. It's sometimes answers wrongly. And sometimes it gets it wrong. Like I went to OpenAI a couple weeks ago, and I was curious about something, so I typed in. I was like, "Explain it to me like I'm 5." And the greatest thing ever. Explain it to me like a 5. Great prompt. If you're not using it, please do it. And it spit it out. Part of it was like gold. It gave footnotes, and then it gave a footnote to something, and I went and looked at it, and it was completely wrong. I was like, "Yeah." So it's only as good as the data points that it draws from.
And as good as the inputs that you give it as well. So, Will, this is really interesting because you are a very tech-forward person. You're very smart and savvy. You've set up automation systems within your own business, but at the same time, you recognize that there are inefficiencies and maybe even shortcomings of AI as it is today. I think these are some of the biggest concerns that other business owners, especially within the insurance industry, have, right? Is it too early to get into AI and to start using it? What if it does something wrong? Right. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this because it seems like you're utilizing it despite the problems that it might cause at this time. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll give you that idea of back to originally of no equals $sign. You can change out the word no to mistake equals $sign. People are people at the end of the day. If you're going to create a relationship with somebody, it is going to be based off of connecting with them. I had an automation sequence once ran, and it completely messed it up. It went out to 70, 80 people, and I'm like, crud. And I looked at it, and then I was like, okay, gotta own this. It was my fault. It was honestly bad data input on my part. So literally sent a text message, put in the code so it personalized the name. Hey, this is Will. The text message you just got was 100% wrong. We do not have a time machine. We cannot go back to the date that I said this event was going to occur. Sorry about that. Any way I can help you? ? Boom. 9 people texted back, LOL. I booked 6 out of 9 appointments off of the LOL. Closed 3 of them. So reality is you're going to make mistakes. AI is going to make mistakes because it's only as good as the programming that goes into it, but it doesn't matter. Now, if you tell someone something factually untrue, that's when it matters. So you can come back and go, okay, hey, that was wrong. But if you've got good input, it really doesn't matter because you're trying to get a relationship. That's what that technology is designed to do. It is not designed to replace it. So there are in the insurance industry a couple companies that they do everything 100% online. The problem with that is that computer is only going to ask the questions on the screen based off of enough to get you into a policy. It doesn't mean that policy is always going to be there. I have replaced so many policies. I will not name the company. There's a major one in the US. They do almost everything online. And I have probably 30, 40 clients that had policies up to month number 23 and have their policies canceled because insurance carriers have a 2-year period that they can look at and cancel your contract with them for any reason. And they are not going to be stupid about this. They're going to make sure in month number 23 that that policy had all the information. So if you're talking to a computer system and you're taking a medication that it doesn't have an input for, or you don't know where to put it as an input in there, then you can lose your policy. So you've been paying in on this policy for 2 years. It could be $10 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month. And then you lose it. You're going to be really, really upset. And then you're going to be looking at one of my ads, and then we're going to go, okay, no, we need to get you in with a carrier that doesn't care about this med. And that's where the huge part comes in. I firmly believe that AI, when done correctly, as it continues to grow and get better, it will do nothing but help connect people to the people that can help them. It's not going to replace the human. And I think there's a fear of that. The reality is, AI, it's programming. It's only going to spit out what's been programmed into it. It is not data from Star Trek. It's probably never going to become that. If it does, we'll have another podcast, and I will definitely say I was wrong.
If we're still around, unless AI is taking over the world, then there's nothing left to care about.
If Skynet happens, your insurance policy isn't going to make a difference.
Not at all. So, with that being said, maybe what's some advice that you might give to listeners, whether they be leaders, business owners, or just industry professionals who are curious about AI, but maybe still hesitant around it for some of the concerns that you voiced yourself?
Well, my opinion on it is you've got to try it. If you try it and you don't like it, don't use it. If you try it and you think it adds some value, and you need to tweak parts of it, then tweak parts of it. It's nothing wrong with trying something as long as it can bring value. And that's the same thing with any technology. If it doesn't bring value to you, you're going to get rid of it. But not trying it because you think something could go wrong, you're probably going to just shoot yourself in the foot. Reality is, our world has changed a lot in a very short period of time. Artificial intelligence is going to be the largest growing technology field for the next decade. The question mark is really who's going to win and what's it going to look like when it's done. Pretty certain we'll have a period where there will be a bunch of congressmen who don't even know what AI is, ruling on the United States about how much it is and isn't allowed to do. And hopefully there'll be a few Gen Xers in there and millennials that can, set them right. But the fear aspect of it, I think, is overblown. Maybe we watched a few too many Terminator movies as kids and we're afraid that AI is somehow going to do that. I don't think we really have that to worry about. I think the bigger fear everyone should have is not leveraging it and getting left behind. Because if you're a person who cares about other people, why are you going to allow people that don't care lead the way? I get probably 9 to 10 spam messages every single week through it's AI. It's not a human. It's the same bad generated images. I'm like, man, y'all could at least gone over and generated a new fake image. But that's part of the reality. There's bad actors that are going to use good technology. So why not good caring people also do it? And try it. See how it adds value. And if it doesn't, then you can get rid of it. It's not like you're signing a contract for life here. But if it makes your life more valuable, you should. I was actually surprised about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we were at a men's breakfast, and our pastor was like, you guys aren't using AI at all? What's up with that? He's in his 60s. I'm like, you use AI? It's like, dude, I use it every single week. Like, okay, lesson learned.
Definitely an eye-opener there. Well, thank you so much for bringing your story as well as your perspective and your advice to the show today. For any listeners who might like to connect with you to carry the conversation or to learn more about Adair Agency, what's the best way to reach you?
So I'm going to invite you to my personal website, which is willisadair.com, WILLISADAIR.com. That has links over to our Adair Agency. You can Google us. You'll find us that way too. If you're Googling Willis Adair, I'm the one in North Carolina. I'm not the football player in Texas or the plumber in California. North Carolina one. But we'd love to have a conversation with anyone that I might be able to help, either wanting to get into the industry or looking for an agent that can see if I can help them.
Thank you so much for joining the show today, Will. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning into the podcast. As always, I hope this episode has brought you valuable insight, knowledge, and inspiration. If it did, please, will you show your support by dropping us a like on this video and subscribing to the channel. Until next time, we're signing off. And that's a wrap on another episode of The Growth Shift. If this conversation sparked something for you, whether it's a new perspective on failure, a strategy you want to try, or just the reminder that every setback can become a setup for something bigger, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who shift strategically through it. If you're ready to build the systems that help you grow without the chaos, head over to valentix.io. We help businesses like yours scale smarter, not harder. I'm David Zylstra, and I'll see you in the next shift.